Recording is on.
Welcome to the weekly DXdao call where we talk about product and community updates every Thursday. Let's start with the product updates and Omen. Geronimo.
Yeah, so Omen finally got upgraded to the newest version 1.1.9. I hope people realize there is some styling stuff and it's actually like a way better product than before. And that's it for that part. We are moving ahead with finalizing the verification process inside Omen. So right now, there's no clear way for anyone to get a market verified. And our goal is to make sure that those markets, that we do our best that users actually create markets, and good markets should be promoted, and those people should make money by providing liquidity. So with that, we have built in the verification process for the Claros Curate on-chain registry first, primarily because because the Claros team is helping us integrating it. We are finalizing that stuff, and this should be released in the next version next week, version 1.2.0. And after that, there will be like another bigger version with a lot of refactoring and code cleanup, with the possibility to use Omen as a Gnosis safe application and hopefully a wallet connect application on the Gnosis safe multisig interface. And with that, like, good news is that we found a fix for the Gnosis safe multisig interacting with the Omen product. So the Omen Squad is finally able to operate, which is good for the DXdao because there's competition out there who are throwing money everywhere. And so with that, like, now that the Omen Squad can operate, I think our goal should be to the Omen Squad should be representative of the Omen community and the DXdao community. So I think moving forward, I think we should do our best to let the community decide what markets should be promoted with liquidity. And we're going to prepare a competition scheme on DXdao, which will be the first step to allowing users to propose great market ideas, which should also be rewarded.
And for those who aren't up to date on the forum, maybe we should describe a little bit what Omen Squad is exactly.
Yeah, so the Omen Squad is a small group which represents the Omen community, and it holds funds from the DXdao to interact and promote markets on the Omen platform. So primarily it will create markets and fund markets for the DXdao. And of course, the main goal is to make money by providing liquidity on great markets. So we need the community, and our job is to have a healthy Omen community which knows how to make markets which will make money. And this is like the first step of getting to know how AMMs, like automated market makers, work with prediction markets. There's no guarantee that there will money will be made, and I think it's important that we need to do the steps and see how it will play out. And by allowing the community to be the voice of the Omen Squad, I think that's very important, because at the end of the day, we want that the community is creating markets and making money.
Yeah, on the competition scheme, community resourcing different markets by people, like on DXdao, like anyone can propose their markets. at this point on the competition scheme, which once it exists, and we could do it on spreadsheet for now, but once it's in the competition scheme on XDAI, rep holders would vote on the people on the different markets that people have proposed. You get a rank right there. Oh, it exists, Elon's saying, which, yeah, that's great. We haven't used it yet, but then we also have an idea that, like, if you propose a good market and your market gets wins the competition scheme and gets funded by DXdao, by Omen Squad, you earn a bit of rep, something like 0.5 or 0.05% or something like that. And then that allows you to start voting right away on the next set of markets that are proposed in the competition scheme. So it becomes like a snowball effect where everyone that proposes good markets that win gets some rep, and then they can start to participate in the voting of the future markets. Ideally, like, maybe eventually it becomes its own, like, Omen Guild type of environment. Like, Omen Squad becomes Omen Guild using an XDAI platform, but we have to, like, work up to that. But yeah, it'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, like at first, because XDAI isn't the Omen XDAI is not there yet. The Omen Squad will only operate on mainnet Ethereum, which is live right now. But as soon as XDAI is available, the Omen Squad is like a very important player on XDAI, because it will basically bootstrap the user base on XDAI. I guess there are still, like, not a lot of XDAI people out there who are using XDAI, so we need to bootstrap the XDAI product with liquidity.
It's a
very important. The Omen Squad is a very important piece to start, like, connecting the proper Omen user base, and, like, the first step is inviting them via rep rewards through competition schemes. Like, we need to invite those important Omen users, and they at that point we hope they will start caring about the product too.
So the Omen Squad is to help seed new markets and liquidity in Omen, and is starting with a relatively small amount of capital. It's $25,000 from the treasury.
At this point, 15, but
$15,000.
Sorry.
And right now, and also at first will be a multi-sig, but, you know, we're looking at an Omen Guild, which would be either potentially an XDAI clone, or using the DXdao's XDAI clone, or maybe also we could use the ERC20 guilds that Augusto has been working on when those are ready.
Yeah, and there are, like, a lot of cool ideas. We can, like, the competition scheme is the first step because it's like the low-hanging fruit, but one good way is to actually socialize the product is with NFTs. So they're like achievements, which could also be, like, redeemed for rep, which is also cool. They're, like, not just vaporware memes, but also, like, proper governance rights if they want to redeem those NFTs. But that's, like, way further ahead with the product. So yeah, it's exciting. And the proposal for funding the Omen Squad is happening right now. It will pass hopefully in 5 days, and please vote.
That's great. Yeah, and of course, I'm also super excited for Omen on XDAI when that comes. It's scalar markets, which I know are also in the works. So super exciting.
Exactly, like that's another important aspect. Like, the Omen Squad should start helping out, like, testing the scalar markets, and yeah, so that's another important piece.
And we were talking last time about how, you know, scalar markets are sort of like binary options. They could potentially help people hedge against price risk in either or both directions on various crypto assets. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff.
So for the scalar market stuff, we merged the general interface, and we're like reviewing the buy, like the buy process, how to buy into a position, either short or long. And it's like, from my point of view, it's actually like, it's pretty great. Like, even like when you put in your amount you want to like short or long, you can actually like play around with the slider, and it tells you like how much money they will make based on where the needle is. It's actually like it's actually pretty cool. So I'm really looking forward to, especially like for crypto price predictions. It's something pretty interesting, and it's something where the Omen Squad can do some testing and see how it will play out.
Very cool.
And it's like very important that this is not like a siloed group who's doing their own shit. It's very important that we get as much feedback and like even signals as possible to be as representative as possible for the whole collective.
Yeah, this is really about building community, right? And building community around the product. Any questions about Omen before we move on?
Oh, sorry, I forgot another thing. The XI stuff on backend side, the only thing what is missing is making sure that we have a subgraph version for the XI testnet. So that's the only bottleneck for us to start implementing, like start preparing Omen to connect to the whole XDAI system. So as soon as that is done, we will start preparing Omen for XDAI, which means the bridge UI needs to be there, and that's probably it. Yeah. So there are not a lot of bottlenecks, barriers anymore. We can pretty soon start working on the XI Omen front end.
Very cool.
Just one plug for a cool Omen market, because Vitalik is playing, I can't remember who, someone, a grand chess master. And so there's a cool Omen market on who's going to win that. And I posted the Twitter thread there. So I hope that's the type of kind of fun current event that the Omen Squad could kind of move to seed some liquidity on. So go and vote on that. I think Vitalik is like a 30% chance to win. I don't know how good his chess game is though.
That's really cool, actually.
Well, he already lost to someone also in the space that's not a professional chess player, so I don't think he's very good.
Not investment advice though.
Something interesting happened in the comments. Vitalik's father challenged her also, but speed chess or chess. I don't know what it's called, speed chess. So yeah, she accepted that also. Maybe his father is like I don't know, old Russian champion.
Legend is what he is.
The best Twitter account. Yeah, he has the best Twitter account on the internet.
I would add he's probably the coolest guy in crypto. Like I spent a bunch of time with him in East Denver, so
nice.
Yeah, Alpha Leak. Alexander's going to destroy me. Probably. Maybe in an upcoming episode of Queen's Gambit, we can get Vitalik to play. But all right. So moving on to Mesa, there's a release in the works with the features that were described in a previous call. Making the buy-sell interface have some more informative stuff about how much you're going to get, and also your orders being the order table being separated into distinct columns that just make the experience a little bit nicer. There's also been a few hot fixes which have delayed it a few days here, but that's in the works. Zach, I don't know, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the conversations going on? Yeah.
So Martin is interested in starting working with us and actually product owning Mesa. So we talked a little bit, and I think he's interested in me helping him just doing some like UI stuff there also, and like the ideas of what it could be. But so we talked about some stuff for the short term. First of all, this hackathon, and our idea is maybe do a non-technical hackathon where it's not code, it's just a prototype of what an IDO version of Mesa could be. I'm not sure exactly how this hackathon works. I know you need rules, but I don't know. So the idea is just exploring how Mesa could be an IDO product exclusively, and yeah, thanks for that comment. I can't think now. Yeah, so maybe having a hackathon where we prototype IDO version of Mesa. That's a short-term thing, and for long-term, just seeing how we can how we can convert Mesa to the market fit product it should be. And yeah, we're super excited. We both had like the same opinion on, like we all do. So it's a really nice time for Martin to join this.
That's good to hear. So this is Martin Krung, right? Maybe I'm not saying that right, but
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and
is that in that decision-making process, because Mesa is now on XDAI as well. It may be good for IDOs on mainnet, and that may be the main use case, but it could be a really good way to use orders on XDAI. So we shouldn't forget about XDAI, man.
I mean, we talked about this.
Ken, what are you cooking there?
I think my microphone is noisy for some reason, but yeah, I wanted to say that I would love to join the discussions around
awesome.
On Mesa, and yeah, we are kind of also soft launching, I think, soon a CMM safe app. So it will be a kind of a safe app that lets users deploy kind of liquidity strategies on Gnosis protocol. So yeah, another cool stuff. And when it will really launch, I would love people to try and use it. It will be launched actually on DXdao first because of the deployment costs.
Okay, that's nice. But I definitely think you should be involved in the discussions we have. I brought some of your ideas up also when we talked.
Cool. So keep me in the loop.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, great to see like Gnosis maintains kind of this open source repo for a front end Gnosis protocol, and for Mesa, thus far DXdao has mostly been relying on the updates to that and not taking a very active role and kind of shaping the product to our own needs. And so this kind of represents perhaps a shift here where DXdao will take a more active role in developing Mesa and doing taking it in a direction that the community sees as good. And it has had, I think it's still having some success as an IDO platform and still seen as one of the best places to do an IDO, especially if you're starting from scratch. PrimeDAO is running theirs right now. I think API 3 is running theirs soon.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not as much that we're carving this niche or this place in the market out for Mesa. It's almost like Mesa, that brand has kind of been building on Mesa over the last few months because it really is like a platform to position. And even, there's been some cases where they've forked the front end, but even for PrimeDAO, like everyone still calls it Mesa. Even if they're using like a different that. So we're even like still maintaining that brand for IDOs. And I think we should just really lean into that.
Yeah, lean into the IDO use case and kind of think about, where are the opportunities to improve the product around that. I mean, there's even some talk about could we deploy a DXdao owned protocol, like a smart contract protocol that is tailored to that use case, which retains what people like about Mesa in terms of the batch settlement and stuff. But yeah, these are good kind of teasers for this hackathon that's coming up.
Yeah.
While we're mentioning that hackathon, should we talk a little bit about the hackathon? What since it just came up? Chris, I don't know if you either Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll just kind of tee it up and anyone else can join in. So there's currently a proposal in the queue for initial parameters for the Gitcoin Grants Round 8 Hackathon, which runs, I think, like the first 2 weeks of December. So the 1KX Capital had as a sponsor of the Gitcoin Grants Round 8, and they had some bounty slots for some of their projects. And so they granted 2 of them to DXdao. The proposal outlines basically the general scope and reward logistics for those 2 bounties. So the first one is going to be somehow Omen related. So we talked about a couple of things in the chat, and then the second one is Mesa IDO related. The proposal has some brief description on it, but we need to get more of that. And so by next Tuesday, the 24th, is when that description and a couple other things are due. So for the Mesa team, it would be good to talk to you guys and get that finalized. And the same thing for Omen. I know there's been some conversation on that. The proposal that passed it's just a signal proposal, but this would be what the bounty would be set at. So it'd be first place is 3 ETH along with 0.1% rep and $500 of DXD that's vested over 6 months. And so that would be for both of the awards. So I think this is a good opportunity, both for, as we're just talking about both of those products and how they can, we can use some work and kind of building into that in a couple different areas. And then also, as we talk about how to build community, expand, product strategy, get more people involved. I mean, I think these type of like hackathons are very good experience for that. And so hopefully we can kind of use this to build other capabilities similar to that. But if you have, I think the next steps for both of those are really just narrowing down those descriptions for the two bounties. So.
Yeah, exactly. We need the description by 24th of November. Yes, we can reach out to the responsible people from Mesa and Omen directly, I guess.
Yeah, we can, and so Geronimo, I guess, for Omen, and then the Mesa, we're kind of just talking about that here. I definitely think we should try to finalize those on Monday on the biz dev call. Maybe that's what we kind of use as an internal deadline, because I think that would be the 23rd. And then we can...
Sounds great.
Yep. Happy to be there.
And thank you. A little shout out to 1KX for securing those hackathon spots as part of the Gitcoin.
Yeah, like no worries. Glad to be helpful, and I hope we see like some cool ideas being built.
Yeah, totally. So if any questions, otherwise on Mesa, I think we can talk about Swapper a bit. Zach, maybe you can lead us off here, and I'm happy to jump in and.
Yeah, so we announced Swapper. We announced a Q4, Q1 timeline of the releases we're gonna plan to do, and we're currently testing on Rinkeby, and that's about it. The community was happy. The name Swapper won. It was Swapper versus Aqua. It was a really hard decision there, because it's actually like half people thought Aqua, half thought Swapper was good. So yeah, that's about it.
Aqua will rise again.
One day.
Yeah. So yeah, and on the testing side, so yeah, the DApp is being tested on RigB as well as the core, and all kind of part of this core periphery contracts. The first thing to go out would be the core and periphery contracts. We did find, there was one issue with the router referencing the correct hash that we found in the first round, so we had to redeploy, and we're in the middle of kind of the second round of tests for that. But I think that's going well so far, and once those are complete, which I think today or tomorrow, then we can finalize the core and periphery release. That allows a proposal to happen to fund the deployer contracts. So that proposal is the first step. Could take up to 7 days if we don't get absolute majority. Once that's cleared, core is deployed, the addresses are available, and the DApp could also be deployed. So that's the sequence, all laid out very well in the blog posts, which I recommend everybody check out on it's the DXdao Medium, right?
Yeah, I linked it in comments here.
Great, yeah. What else is the relayer is going into re-audit, which will allow us to do the liquidity from DXdao. Related but not directly Swapper is Nico has started work on a Gnosis protocol relayer, which allows trades to be made from the treasury to Gnosis protocol, which will be good for reallocating portions of the treasury to stable coins or whatnot. There's a little talk. There's a treasury channel now in Keybase, which is pretty cool if people want to check that out. There's been some talk about allocating some of the treasury to some kind of Bitcoin on Ethereum. TBTC, I think, is getting more airtime there because it's a little more of a decentralized approach. But yeah, interesting to kind of see that discussion wrapping up in terms of just treasury management right now. It's pretty much all in ETH from the raise and also the DXD that is being dripped in from the pre-mint. Anything else on Swapper, Chris? I don't know if we have the weekly call tomorrow. Welcome anyone to join that.
Yeah, I think that's about it. And it's just kind of there was a call before this, just sitting in on. So with Zet leading, so it kind of just seems like we're rolling through the specifics of rolling out the next 2 phases, I guess. And I think we're drifting towards, so we're in Swapper Alpha now, and then I think we'll have Swapper Beta and then Swapper 1.1. Those are maybe the ones we're working with. And so, yeah, it's kind of feels good to see things kind of slowly rolling through.
Cool, yeah. And if anybody wants to help test on RigB, just speak up in the dev channel. We have an IPFS link and can provide that. For Rails, there's some work going on. Federico, did you want to address that?
Yeah, it's pretty much the I'm continuing, reviewing the wallet connection flow, etc. We moved on to testing. There are some things that are not okay as of now, but I think we probably could see like a 1.1 release pretty soon. So yeah, I've done some minor changes plus the wallet connection review, and I'm testing that currently with the help of Sky, and that's pretty much everything for Rails.
Sweet, thanks. So last on the product stuff, should we kind of turn inward here and talk a little bit about governance? Nylan, maybe you could give us the latest on XDAI and anything else from DAOstack.
Yeah, sure. So after lots of kind of mishaps, we've redeployed the XDAI DAO, and I've actually made 2 deployments, one with the multi-generic scheme, one without it. Just kind of like the thought of maybe DXdao wants to actually propose to add this scheme, but I think due to the time constraints, we're just going to use the one with the multi-generic scheme. I'll be able to send it in a bit. There's just like a problem with the subgraph indexing of it, which means that the competition scheme and the multi-generic scheme don't show up in the UI. So that's kind of like the thing for that. And yeah, we also had, I guess, the governance 2.0 call that we had Augusto and Matan speaking about Gen and its place basically in the holographic consensus. And yeah, Matan proposed, and this is something that I'm working with him, basically to propose it like a partnership agreement where this would kind of be like long term. And yeah, I think the goal here is to really, I guess, from both sides, see the DAO stack is committed to DXdao and then vice versa. So I think that's that. In terms of that, I don't know, maybe Chris wants to add something in relation to governance, or if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, I think we'll come back to governance 2.0 in a second, but yes, and if there's anything else from DAO stack, I don't know, Ezra, if you wanted to say anything as well.
I guess one thing would be, if anyone has not seen the post I made on DAO Talk and linked with stuff that we're planning to improve in Alchemy over the next month or so, I'd recommend checking that out. I'll link it again in the Keybase. But it's got mock-ups and full summaries of the stuff. So would definitely welcome feedback. It might make sense actually for us to just set up a call where anyone can come and talk about that stuff, because it seems like that tends to be more convenient for people, just having a time to come in and think about it rather than waiting till they get around to it otherwise. So maybe we'll just do that. But the post is up if anyone wants to look at it, and obviously any feedback is useful.
Thanks. Okay, anything else on the governance front? Augusto, was there anything on ERC20 guilds?
Yes, well, actually not really, because I'm still working on making sure that the ERC20 guild contracts are ready for being audited. The main change that I did is that I added a snapshot and log of the tokens by default on the ERC20 guild. This is something that we are going to need to do on the first implementation, and I'm going to reference to see the tokens that are logged in a specific address. At the beginning, it's going to be the guild address itself, but we were talking. I think it was yesterday on the governance call about how powerful can it be to be able to log the token somewhere else where you have an economic incentive, and it helps our DXD economic ecosystem, and you also get voting power or representation of voting power in the DXD guild that ultimately is going to represent a percentage of the reputation on the DAO. So that is what I'm working on, and I'm going to have it ready for this week, ready to audit. Next week, I'm going to continue working on the DX voting DAO.
Very cool. And for those who don't know, the ERC20 guild is it sort of, I would describe it as almost a suite of contracts, right, that can support different types of voting setups for ERC20s. And the two use cases that DXdao is looking at in the near term is first a DXD guild to give DXD holders some allocation of rep and a voice in governance, and perhaps just for signaling things in general. And second, within Swapper, LP governance of the individual swap fees per pair. Cool. Yeah, I think that's it for products, unless anybody has anything else to say. I think a landing page update will be coming out with the first version of Swapper, so that's exciting to look forward to as well. And then, yeah, with that, maybe, Nylon, can we recap the BizDev call?
Yeah, sure. So in the BizDev call, we talked about just general kind of collaboration. The topic was collaboration with Fuse. But this is kind of like a general discussion, and it hasn't really reached a conclusion, but this is something that needs to be investigated. Like, how do we collaborate with different products? If they have a token, do we do a token swap between the two communities, and how will that work? And there's, on one hand, a lot of potential here, and then on the other hand, we could end up supporting shitty projects or outright scams. Hopefully that won't happen. We also talked about the hackathon, which was kind of discussed earlier in the call, and started a discussion about the DXdao product strategy, which is also, let's say, an unfinished topic, which needs a lot more in-depth thinking about. And yeah, I think that's mostly it.
Where were things? We had talked about Colony last time. Where did we leave? Where was that left off?
What
was the next steps with Colony? Yeah.
The next step was for John, I think his name is, right? To post on DAO Talk. I don't think he's done that.
Okay,
but yeah, I can follow up with him.
Yeah, there's a lot of, it's interesting to think about partnerships. There's a lot of relationships that DXdao has, whether it's Gnosis or DAO Stack or DMM, Loopring, and some interest from projects like Fuse and Prime DAO and Plotex I just talked to this morning are projects that have expressed interest in doing some kind of a partnership. So, it's interesting, and we can talk about this more in the upcoming BizDev and governance calls. But how do we actually do that, decide that, structure those relationships?
Yeah. Like, kind of shooting from the hip here, but I'm thinking of a few templates of collaboration with these different projects, products, and then obviously each case to its own. Because you have, I don't know, if you have like a Web3 foundation wanting to collaborate or something like that, something big, then yeah, perhaps like it's more like unilateral, like what each gives. But if like it's a new project, then you might maybe, I don't know, just ask for them to give tokens and then get something in return. So yeah.
Yeah, token swap isn't something we've done yet, but could be an interesting way to align and partner with different projects.
Yeah.
Cool. Should we move to the governance call? I've been skipping the dev call since we spend most of the call talking about products anyways. But if you are interested in any specifics, Augusto usually provides some pretty good notes on DAO Talk from the Tuesday dev call. So yeah, for governance.
Yeah, and actually the notes this week for the dev call are very good, to suggest them. But for governance discussion yesterday, kind of the 1.0 stuff, we talked about the two proposals that are kind of currently in the queue now, the Omen Squad and then the Gitcoin Hackathon sponsorship one. And so then there are a couple other worker proposals for that. Also spent another 15 or 20 minutes in the call talking about general worker compensation improvements discussion. So there's a thread on this. And so we're kind of trying to understand a bit more about how to organize a employee system. I'm not going to say HR, but kind of something in this regards. And so there's a lot of kind of discussions on what we're actually trying to do and build, and some different perspectives from the Europeans and the Americans on how the employment systems provide stability. And then, and then the other thing that we kind of talked a little bit about was governance 2.0. And I actually wanted to just take like 2 minutes here to just kind of provide a broader update on that, of kind of where we're at with regards to that. So Tuesday, we had the second call with a lot of people that have been involved in DXdao for a long time, some people that are kind of just getting involved and providing different outside perspectives. So I think it's been a pretty good discussion. And so right now, I think we're at the point where we're trying to to take a step back. this is trying to provide a long-term alignment between DXD and rep holders. You know, DXdao has these two primitives, but they were actually launched separately and never really fully reconciled. So this is to try to take a step back and provide some long-term positioning between DXD and rep holders. And so where we're at right now is kind of establishing, okay, what do we want the base foundation or the requirements for any solution or and kind of proposal be? And so the things that we've kind of landed on right now in terms of and I'm trying to work this up for a more public forum post, but I wanted to give kind of a preview of it now. So on social, things like rep is earned, and DXD, you know, is the liquid financial value. You know, some of the structural things that we're talking about. So making DXD like a necessary condition for DXdao governance actions. So that would mean, like right now, there's no need for DXD in governance. So somehow tying that to that, making kind of some incentives on rep holders in the same way of kind of tying them to a future ability. And then, yeah, a couple other things here that we're thinking of, and I think the maybe new approach we're leaning towards, there's kind of a discussion around, is the idea of voting power being different than reputation, right? So voting power basically being a construct of reputation and DXD and maybe some other variables, but kind of that's the end, voting power. And so, yeah, and then as Elon said earlier, there's also been a discussion about some other components of maybe the voting mechanics, and so holographic consensus, discussing like Gen and DXD in this regard. We have our third meeting in 10 days, the Tuesday after that, and so hopefully we'll kind of narrow things down there more. But yeah, just wanted to give a update there and see if there are any questions or comments.
So this document is sort of the spec or the requirements document for Governance 2.0, and the next step for the working group is to start coming up with some ideas on what the solution is, and I think probably modeling it as well, right, to kind of see how it meets the general goals of decentralization and scalability, etc.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of like almost, I feel like we're like 95% towards the solution requirements, and then we can shift towards that. And I just think we need to clean up some of this, but yeah, and then we can kind of shift towards how to implement it.
And Eric is asking, where can people find a link to that talk? I think it's, is it in that talk?
It will be in DAO Talk.
Yeah, the previous one is in DAO Talk, and I haven't put this one into DAO Talk.
Yeah, I'm not sure if people watching the video can see the chat, or and they probably can't access the link.
Yeah,
so
no, they can't. So yeah, I'm gonna put a kind of try to provide the same update I provided here with some context in DAO Talk, and so there'll definitely be a link there. I think this link works if you're in the chat now and want to check it out, but there will be a DAO Talk post on this as an update.
Great. And I wanted to touch briefly, because I mean, if we take a step back, this Governance 2.0 was one of the points in this like 5-point plan that passed. And so I just want to talk a little bit about, like, you know, the other things in that plan. And, you know, I think there's, you know, there's only so much bandwidth that people being involved can, we're all pretty busy, you know, between the products and biz dev and governance is a lot to do. And so I think there's really only so much bandwidth to kind of advance these different initiatives. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we're not forgetting here, like the bonding curve issues and different things that we had also brought up kind of over the summer. And so I think probably a bonding curve working group should be one of the next things I would think we would probably do.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we should kind of like work towards that soonish. Because these things kind of take time to
Yeah,
roll
exactly.
and
Like there's really
develop,
only
right?
so much you can do at once, and you can't kind of
Right.
fight on all fronts at one time. You just only have so many hours in the day. But yeah, but I think if governance 2.0 is moving along, I think the next thing I would imagine would be trying to kick off this DX Trust research group. On that note, I don't know if Augusto wants to talk about the burning DXD post. I think the poll closes tomorrow. I just got my 2 cents in there this morning. And anybody who hasn't yet, maybe they want to chip in on that post. Augusto, maybe, do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah. Well, I received some feedback that I should have been more clear on the effects that burning DXD is going to have on the curve, and I think it's also like clear that very few people knows or understands the different actions that we can do with DXD. That when we are talking about DXD, we are also talking about DX Trust. Everything is under the same address. The DXD smart contracts. It has all the ERC20 features, transfer, approve, transfer from, yada yada. But it also holds a reserve of Ether, and then you have that Ether reserve, and then you have like this DXD pre-minted reserve that we use a very high number because we didn't know where we were on what we were going to spend it or how we were going to use it. And what I think another thing that is clear is that I don't know if it was a tremendous success, but it was a successful fundraising, and we have a nice amount of funds, and we have a lot of DXD that eventually some of them are in circulation. Another question is how which tokens are the ones in circulation? As my understanding are the tokens that you can transfer. Right now we have DXD on our treasury that can be transferred, and it's a big amount of the current circulating supply. If by tokens that can be transferred means that you think that they are circulating supply. So we have a smart contract that I wrote and I tested on Rinkeby, a smart contract that any DXD sent there, they are going to be burned. Yeah, I just wanted to throw the question at the community with my opinion of what we should do and the implications that we have and how our options here on how many DXD, how much DXD should be burned, because this is a very powerful action that we can execute it on our community. And considering all the things that has been happening lately between the DXD holders, rep holders, or all our community, I think it would be a good first step to start burning some DXD. So I just created the topic and I answered the question and I created a poll, and now I'm just trying to see what the community thinks.
I was one of the commenters who wanted to like have like a 0% option because I don't think that burning DXD at this point is gonna be beneficiary. I mean, there are like so many things that you can do like with your own token, and I don't think that we are like in any way powerful enough to, discard that flexibility. And so, yeah, I don't understand why we should burn tokens.
Yes and no. Because why yes? Because yes, there is a lot of things that we can do. But no, because when we say, hey, let's use this DXD that we have to add liquidity for DX swap now swapper, the committee went like, no way, why are you injecting DXD in the market? Like, yeah, we don't want to see that spend that way. So
Yes,
then we
but
have to take a step back. So
Augusto, I think you can also take an input from Chris, who at 1KX Capital, who's clearly a DXD holder, and so I think they're kind of it shows you that there's like kind of a wide variety of opinions and arguments here. I think like the way that I'm kind of thinking, the way that I'm kind of thinking about this whole situation is, clearly we're kind of like becoming like the central bank of the DXD economy. And when you have a central bank, you have tons of different tools at your disposal. And burning DXD is clearly a tool at your disposal, but like kind of in the central bank sense, you don't want to put rates to zero or do helicopter money until you need it. I feel like this is maybe a like break glass if necessary that we could like use burn DXD, but like, is it, once you kind of use it, it does dilute the ability as a tool in terms of like when you would potentially do it. So I think it's an interesting idea, and kind of, I guess the marketing and the forward signaling component could be it. But that also kind of sets a precedent, because once you burn a little, then people will be coming back kind of asking for it to be burned more, or it'll become something that is debatable. So yeah, I think I actually have not voted, and I'm just going to put my 2 cents in, but I can't, I haven't come to a conclusion on it, but I guess I'm in the, like, what is the driving force of burning any DXD?
And I think the flexibility that Christopher brought up is an interesting thing. When we were discussing the bonding curve in this pre-mint, at least in my perception of the discussions and why it was decided to do the 100,000 is because we don't really have the innate ability to just mint more DXD. That's only through the curve. Having that 100,000, which is sort of relatively large, like, today that 100,000 pre-mint is like 2/3 of the total supply. It's a pretty large portion, but what that allows is flexibility. And the circulating supply, I think that definition, I'm not sure what the real definition is. CoinGecko does not include treasury funds as part of the circulating supply. So I mean, it's interesting to think about that too. If DXD is sitting in the treasury, it's not necessarily doing anything unless the DAO wants it to be, right? So yeah.
Can maybe someone recap what happened with the Augusto mentioned that there was like a discussion for DX swapper incentives with DXdao, and that apparently like the community didn't want that. I think I wasn't part of the community back then, so maybe could someone just quickly recap that?
So the question being, why was there negative feedback towards providing liquidity to swapper from the treasury in the DXD pair?
Well, I understood it as negative feedback to incentivize liquidity with DXD token.
Yeah. So I think there are two different things. It's kind of, they're both related to swapper. The pushback was more on DXdao itself seeding a DXD ETH pool in swapper at current market rates, because that would be like the pre-mint being kind of used and put out at a market price that is like much lower than the bonding curve. And so the optics of that were discussed and like kind of debated a lot. And then related was kind of using DXD incentives, but there was not as much pushback on that component.
Yeah, and I like speaking about, like, I just think it's totally not necessary to burn anything, because our goal should be to create protocols, products which have been used by humans, and I think we could use a DXD to reward people who use our products. Or our job is to make revenue. I think DXD holders will be happy if we create revenue and not burning our capital.
So the DXD smart contract has a function called pay, where it's intending to receive revenue by DXdao DXD customers And a percentage of these revenues is going to be used to mint new DXD tokens to the controller of the DXD, that is DXdao. So you have two ways to increase the buyback reserve in the DXD token. One is by just sending Ether to the DXD, right, to the DXD smart contract. That will increase the sell price way more than the just paying. And then if you pay, for example, let's say Omen generates some revenue and it pays it back to the to DXD, it will also generate tokens to either to, it can be to the Omen Squad or to the DXdao itself. This function is very good because it will increase the Ether buyback reserve that is used for the buy price, and it will also mint new tokens that can be under governance of the DXdao. And these are going to be eventually DXD that we can, I think that DXD that we are using, for example, for worker payments, for vested payments, for vested contracts. So this is how the cure that everyone calls it cure, but it's kind of like a line, is designed to receive revenue and generate with that revenue also a percentage of tokens that we can configure alongside this revenue and increase the economic of our token on the collateral side on Ether and also on the token side that will be DXD. And yes, we need revenue.
Part of me thinks that we should have a DX Trust tutorial or maybe a tutorial video for all the details of how these fair market contracts work, just so for those who want can be aware. Maybe that would be a good prelude to the bonding curve research team.
That would be very interesting to get more details on how that works. Yeah.
And also a way of kind of creating that like more DXD community that we've been talking about more. I don't know, Sky, if this falls in with like the Discord thing, maybe we could have a fun event around the DX Trust as a way of kind of forming that community.
Yeah, I'm also still quite surprised that literally 0 DXD holders are like pushing for an immediate stop of the bonding curve right now, right? It was like literally no one cares right now about the bonding curve anymore. And that's like a clear signal that it is actually really good that the DXdao can't move fast, because you might have like progressed into something which wasn't important at all. And right now we see the bonding curve itself is important, and I think we should do like a new version of it, which like includes features which we might use, but right now like literally no one cares.
I can't wait for DXD Guild to put these questions directly to the DXD holders. That would be much more informative. But yes, anyways, we are now a little bit over the hour. Augusto with the Infuego topic here. And yeah, I encourage everybody to jump into that thread, because it is an interesting topic, gets people thinking. And I think this also relates kind of tightly with the bonding curve discussion as well.
Yeah, I think the points that Augusto raised, especially like around the minting that is still happening, I think these are like good reasons. I think they should have been more explained in a burn post. But yeah, like still like at this point, I think the money that we would burn there, we could use like for like to hire like so many workers, right?
Yeah, that was one of my, in this post that I just posted, like it's turning out that the only way we're using DXD right now, that DXD holders and the DAO is comfortable with, is if we have locked up. So if whenever we use DXD, it's locked up for 2 years, DXD holders seem okay with that usage. When we said, oh, let's use it to like put in a swapper pool, they're less or use it for incentive, like liquidity farming incentives, where people could get it and dump it. That clearly has a negative connotation. So if it's locked up DXD, there's lots of things you can do with DXD, and that's paying people, that's paying projects, it's like using it like ETH basically. People just don't want it coming onto the market, like so that it can be dumped and push the price down.
Yeah, and like instead of burning the DXD, like I would rather see prediction markets on Omen, which uses DXD as collateral, which is also like a way DXD holder can signal